Xcode 26 beta is out and we've got a new coding assistant integrated in Xcode. In this video I'm going to demo how it is working, how smoothly or how many times it crashes, what the pros and cons are. Not just the fancy features that Apple likes us to see. Before we start, this new feature is only available if you upgrade your Mac to macOS 26 beta, which you might not want to do. You will need to have access to the Xcode 26 beta, which requires a paid developer account. When you run this the first time, you need to make sure that Apple Intelligence is enabled. Under settings, under the Apple Intelligence in Siri settings here, this one needs to be enabled, Apple Intelligence. It might take a little bit because I don't know what they're downloading in the background. Only then, when you open Xcode and in the Xcode settings here, this might ask you to download stuff. The easiest way of using this is with ChatGPT. You will need to log into your account for ChatGPT and you will get more credits, more generations if you have a paid ChatGPT account. They also allowed different providers like Anthropic here. So what you have to do is add a model provider, select here internet hosted and then fill this in. Maybe I just show you the one that I have. So you have to put in the generation, the endpoint where they can do the generation. So in this case, it's the Anthropic v1 server version 1 messages endpoint. Paste in your API key, and then the description is just the name that I gave it, and leave the X API key header as is. This didn't work for me the first time. I had to close Xcode and open it again until you have this. You can also add local hosts. I assume you just need to run these in the terminal and then add here the port, like a local 8080 port with the URL. Although I'm not sure if it's worth it, at least not for me, because I only have 16 GB RAM. So definitely I cannot run something useful here. Once you have this, set up the coding intelligence in your project. On the sidebar, you will have an additional button up there for the AI assistant. And in this case, because it actually works now, it connected my accounts properly, you see here message ChatGPT. On the top left, you see we have different possibilities depending on what you add here. You see all the Claude things, although Claude is a bit expensive, which I will show you also some of the generations with this. But I like to stay with ChatGPT. So as a first one, just so you see this at least one time running, what is this project doing? What they added is actually the possibility to look into files with SourceKit. So they have the context and it can request different files to look through. In this case, it looked into these 5 files. I'm not really sure why I have 2 content views. I try to fix this, but when it does this generations in the text, it's trying to give you also context. In this case, it's telling me that the main app file, so if you tap here, which is the one that I'm currently in, and it tells you, this is with ChatGPT, what this app is. This is a small macOS application that I just started working on, where you can search on your Mac throughout your content for code files, especially for Xcode projects. So this is supposed to help you to understand what the projects are. Let's just run this so you see what I did actually here. So it is indeed a small macOS app where you can search for stuff for different folders and then gives you just the Xcode projects. So you can just filter this for some of my projects and then open this and then even open the Xcode project. Although I think this is now doing the normal Xcode, not the default one. Understanding a new project is one of the features they advertised this with. They also added an inline tool. So if you tap anywhere, right click to choose show coding tools. This gives you this little popover. For example, you can say explain. And now it goes to tell you what a menu bar extra actually is. We have the example so it understands your own code with each of these lines. This is really quick. In this case, it generated a new conversation. So if you're here on the sidebar, you see your old conversations. Sometimes they don't load, as you see here. But usually you can go back. If you don't want them anymore, click clear, create a new conversation, and then clear all. Now let's see how it does with code generation. This is a rather small app. I will also try another one later. In here I have a small arrow view, and my project is rather all over the place. So let's say I want to refactor this. I only want to work on this file. So I am going to disable this project search button. This is now disabled, so it's not going to go to the other files. The other button down here is automatically enabling or disabling that code edits are done. Let's just try what it does if I do this. On the left down here you have attach or images. So I want to extract the arrow views in a separate file. It normally should understand this, but in this case it doesn't really know. This is the code. It will continuously understand your process, so it references all the earlier ones. So it asks here, before proceeding, could you tell me the name of the file where your code currently lives? You can specify in the chat the code is in file with add, and then in this case it's the content view. So it gives you suggestions, and I'm now enabling again the code file search, project search. So it creates a new file, it updates this. Here you see the little loading indicators what it's working on. Let's see if there's a new file. It generated a new file. This is the text I had previously, the other one. It also did understand what I was doing here. I'm just giving one error message in a content unavailable view. This is a generic error view. So it has here these 3 different ones. And it updated it in my view. You see here, this was the one where I had these other ones inside. So it's now moved these over. Automatically it do this. It moved everything. Here automatically added. M for, I think, modified. So it automatically does this. Summary of what changes it did. If I tap here, it now gives me the full summary. A different fancy color for the modifications that it did. Now if you don't want this, you can press here revert. Let's say I do this and continue working on this. For example, can you move this whole block also into a separate file? Sometimes unexpected error occurred. Try again. It just doesn't do it, and I think it's okay. Try something else. Let's say I want to change the font here. Can you change the font in arrow view to a smaller bold style? So the problem is it got stuck. That's the thing. Usually I cannot do a lot of these generations in one file. The reason why I wanted to show this is up here there is a history button. So you can go through the last changes. Unfortunately, it got stuck. Usually you can undo the last changes as you want and then press here restore. And you see restore all changes. This did not actually do what I was supposed to do. The other thing that I realized with these conversations, especially for ChatGPT, is that they end up at some point. So I will now go back and manually undo all the changes. Okay, now we're back. Okay, let's try again in a new conversation. So what I wanted to do, maybe I just show you. When you search something, I'm getting here these commented lines. I don't want to have these search results. So you can also take screenshots of saying, and then you can drop them in or just here under attachments. With this image, I allow ChatGPT to see what my problem is. In this case, I want to filter the lines and remove code comments. I don't want to see the sheet comment in the screenshot. And now starts to generate some of this code. So first it goes and looks at the files that are relevant. Then it makes a plan and approach. In this case, it actually will filter it out here in the results view where I already have everything. So it did it here. You see here this colorful gradient. It actually did it here. This is definitely not a good idea because this will crush my performance. Although probably the way I did this was not the best. Now looking at it, let's see, do you think the performance of the app will suffer with the current implementation? I mean, I have 2 for each inside and you are filtering there. Having 2 for each is not bad. Actually, it is not bad because the second one is just the lines of code. The first one is the important one because this is the search result. So how to optimize pre-filter. Okay, this is going somewhere. Let's just try the same thing. Copy prompt. I am going under this history. Here it shows me this one change and I'm going to do restore all changes. Okay, I create a new chat, and just for you to see, I am going to now use Anthropic Claude Sonnet 4, pasting in the same thing. So this is going to be expensive for me, just so you know, because I tried this before and in one shot I spent 50 cents. So we'll see how much token it uses this time. It looks at the screenshot provided, then it searches for the files that it needs. This is rather fast because it uses the source code and Xcode internals. They can optimize this. It already adjusted this here. You see, filtered match results. Then it goes in this file. I would like to actually jump to this file. So this is this one that it looked at. Okay, sometimes it's me not going to the right position. So it did trim. It did look inside if it has a certain prefix like these to additionally filter this. Again, it changed two files. So it does multiple steps at a time to search through files. In the earlier example, it went a lot more. So this is from my usage logs, starting here, these 5. You see, for this small prompt, it already used like 60,000 input tokens and I don't know, 2,000 output tokens. So this is not a cheap thing. And the earlier one had multiple of these. That was expensive. But it is a little bit better. Just going to undo this ones too. Restore. It depends a little bit where you are in the app. So I try again with a more general approach. Usually it's best if you have a little bit of context of what the app does. I have a macOS app to search files locally for code snippets. It shows the results preview. I use command line tool to search, but the results are too noisy and I want to not show files with only comments or comments in general. You see, it goes multiple times searching for views. I search for the command line tool and the results processing. Perfect, I can see your search results. They are implementing this tool so it goes back and forth between your project. It has one solution, filter comments after processing. In this case, it really helped that I told it what I want to do because otherwise it was just not efficient. Let's see what it suggests. So this is after I get my results from the command line tool, then I should filter, not just before I display. So you see here this part is added. It's just added another filter. Now let's add the helper. The nice thing about this is that you really see it thinking. Otherwise, you can also in these prompts tell it exactly which steps you want to do, or just ask it, give me a strategy, and only then you can implement this. So this is now checking what is in there and if you should uncomment this or not. This is the helper function. Solution 2. Let's also add a user preference to control whether comments should be filtered or not. And now you see another unexpected error. So this is one of the things, it goes somewhere and then it just doesn't finish. Can you continue? So now it starts again to look for all of these files. Okay, let me now add user configured options to enable and disable comment filtering, because it goes onto multiple files now. Yes. It's really nice because you see the code changes and why it did certain things. This is a little bit better with ChatGPT than Claude, because Claude changes everything in 10 places at once. It found another error. If you double tap, it seems to jump to the code. That's nice. Now let's see if it at least builds. There's already an error. Invalid escape sequence in literal. They also added here for errors a generate fix for issue. I can see the issue in your code. Great. You do. No, I did not do this. Okay, we're still in Claude. And I try ChatGPT. Okay, this worked. Let's just see if it built. Yeah, this is actually one of the reasons why it's nice to have both of them or multiple of them, because sometimes one is better than the other one. So I have now here this new toggle. Let me just check if I find something with a comment. This one is not a comment. I mean, not in the sense that we had it before, because it's in here. So it's not in a line. So after checking, it apparently did it. This improvement here seemed to have worked. Now, because this is in a different chat, it doesn't know about the previous changes. That's why you only have this one line here. And in the history, I only see this one change. This is a little bit annoying because the changes don't track over all of these. So I can't undo them in full. It's just per each of these conversations you see this. And because, especially for ChatGPT, I need to start them quite often, there's some errors, so you end up with a lot of these. But luckily we have source control. So in here it's much easier to see which changes happened with all of these modifications. To have another project, an alternative, which is a little bit larger than what I have here with the 10 files. This is the Ice Cubes app. I think it's a Mastodon. Is there no README? And we do the same game again. I just ask, what is this project doing? It is working with Mastodon. It's multi-platform, including authentication. This is working fine, because mostly it just looks into, because it can recursively look into these files. And you see it's pretty fast considering how large this project is. You can then ask specific questions about, what do I want to know? How does it handle auth and tokens? So in this case, it goes into app account, keychain Swift. So it saves sensitive data to the keychain for the auth tokens. That's good. It supports multiple accounts. Each account is associated with an OAuth token. Can you explain how does it handle access tokens? So now this is the file that I probably should look at, the app account manager. How does the token refresh work? So in this case, because I can give the specific file, it should be faster with searching, finding information. Okay, it did not find the token refresh. Maybe it's not necessary to have taken refresh code. This was a short rundown of the new coding assistant in Xcode 26. It's a little bit clunky, which is to be expected, but at least it didn't crash on me. Xcode was still running fine. And it was relatively fast, considering how many files and input I gave it and how much processing it was actually doing. I'm pretty sure there's quite a lot of enhancements that are coming just in the next couple of weeks from the input they get from developers. It's definitely a nice addition, especially since I see all the code changes, they happen automatically. I can opt in or opt out if I want to do them all. Personally, I would probably just add them to quickly test something and then carefully guide the AI to what I actually want to have. It does work what I saw for a little bit larger projects. I didn't really know how it's going with a pretty big project. I had more problems with just this conversation that sometimes end abruptly and then I just don't go anywhere afterwards. I personally probably just going to continue with ChatGPT most of the time and then sometimes switch to Claude. Because as you saw, it's pretty hungry with the API cost. Just be aware of that. It probably works quite well if you have small changes, if you want to know what's happening. Also, it has, which I didn't show, some features where it can automatically generate a preview, which is nice. The things I did were probably harder for it, depending on how much context you give it. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I might do another follow-up after I use this for a little bit longer, just to see if I actually use it. My use case is a little bit different. I have sometimes small developer tool projects that are actually useful, hopefully, but most of the time I do more tutorial codes. The one thing that I'm a little bit sad about is that last year during WWDC25 they announced Swift Assist, or the coding assist, that was supposed to come but never did, which was supposed to properly do this with a model that was trained on Apple's engineering knowledge, and I think I really would have liked to see their code, to see how they would write this code. But I guess they just don't have enough data to train this properly, or it wasn't such a high priority. Also, they don't want to share their code. The fact that they added all these models you can pick from is really nice, because sometimes things work with one model better than the other. As you saw, it worked when I switched back to ChatGPT. If you have any questions on some specifics about the coding assistant, thank you for watching. Until next time, happy coding.